Every dynasty has to end, but sometimes an ending isn't a collapse. It's a handoff. Imagine a king who stood right at the border between two great ages of Egypt. A king who closed the door on an era of trial and error and opened the door to perfection. His name was Huni. He was the last king of Egypt's third dynasty and the quiet architect of its most glorious age. By the year 2610 BCE, Egypt wasn't the same kingdom it had been a century earlier. Building with stone wasn't just a new idea anymore. It was the standard. Pyramids weren't just a dream. They were an expectation for any pharaoh with ambition. Huni inherited a kingdom that was still processing the massive changes brought by his predecessors. He came after Djoser, whose step pyramid had started a revolution in architecture. He came after Sekhemkhet, whose own pyramid project was left unfinished, a monument to failure. And he came after Kaaba, whose mysterious, buried pyramid leaves us with more questions than answers. The third dynasty had been a time of bold experiments, of learning on the job. Huni's task was different. He didn't need to invent. He needed to stabilize. He needed to take all those scattered lessons and forge them into a strong, unified state. Unlike the famous King Djoser, Huni didn't leave behind grand inscriptions boasting of his victories. We don't have towering statues with his face carved on them, or epic legends telling tales of his divine power. But don't mistake that silence for weakness. Historical records suggest Huni ruled for over 20 years, a remarkably long reign for that period, longer than most other kings of his dynasty. A long and stable reign isn't something you achieve through shouting and spectacle. It's achieved by quietly and effectively managing the kingdom, building infrastructure, and ensuring peace. Long reigns don't make a lot of noise. They settle the land, like fine dust after a storm. So, if he was such an important king, where is his pyramid? This is one of the biggest debates in all of Egyptology. For a long time, scholars have pointed to the mysterious pyramid at Mitam. It's a strange monument. It started as a step pyramid, like Djoser's, but was later converted into a true, smooth-sided pyramid. And then, at some point in antiquity, its outer casing collapsed, leaving the inner core exposed, looking like a strange stone tower. Many experts believe Huni started this pyramid. If that's true, it tells us something incredibly important. It means Huni was the one who attempted the critical transition from the old step pyramid style to the new, perfect, smooth-sided form. The Mitam pyramid failed, yes, but failure is often the best teacher. It was a necessary step on the path to perfection. But Huni's legacy isn't tied to just one massive pyramid. His reign is unique for another reason. All across Egypt, from the northern delta to the southern border at Elephantine, a series of small, solid pyramids began to appear. These weren't tombs. They had no internal chambers. So what were they? They were symbols. They were markers of the king's authority, like royal flags planted in stone. For the first time, we see a king projecting his power far beyond the capital city of Memphis. This wasn't just about building a tomb for the afterlife. This was about building a nation. Huni was unifying Egypt, making the king's presence felt in every corner of the land. He was building the administrative state that would define the Old Kingdom. Perhaps Huni's greatest achievement wasn't what he built, but who came after him. Most Egyptologists believe that Huni was the father, or at the very least the direct predecessor, of one of Egypt's greatest builders, Sneferu. And Sneferu would take all the lessons of the third dynasty, all the successes and failures, and achieve true mastery. Sneferu would be the king who finally perfected the true pyramid, not once, but 3 times. He would oversee feats of engineering and organization on a scale never seen before. He set the stage for the wonders of the Giza Plateau. Huni prepared the ground, leveled the foundation, and drew up the plans. It was Sneferu who would raise the sky. And so, the third dynasty, this age of pioneers and inventors, came to an end. But there was no dramatic collapse, no violent revolution, no dark age. It ended quietly, seamlessly, transitioning into the fourth dynasty, the golden age of the pyramid builders. And that quiet, stable handover may just be the third dynasty's greatest success. Huni didn't just build monuments of stone. He built a stable, prosperous, and unified kingdom. He closed an age of learning and experimentation so that the next age could begin, flawless and confident. In the grand story of ancient Egypt, Huni wasn't the most famous name. He wasn't the greatest builder, but his position in history is absolutely critical. He stood at the doorway between two worlds. Behind him was a legacy of experiments, failures, and hard-won foundations. Ahead of him lay Giza, perfection, and the dream of immortality. He closed the third dynasty not with a final, spectacular monument, but with something far more valuable: readiness. He made Egypt ready for greatness. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the hidden figures of history, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the ancient world.